cannabis strains haven't always been as potent as nowadays. To make a quick comparison, the average strain in 2023 is 20% THC, and the average strain in the 1960s was around 5% THC. Yeah, that's a huge difference. Well, today, we are going to go through the evolution of cannabis strains. It was in the 1700s when French biologist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck made the distinctions between Sativa plants and Indica plants, and since then the terms were used to define a strain of cannabis. Sativa strains offered a more cerebral high, while Indicas, by contrast, would put consumers in the couch, courtesy of a body high. Nowadays, these terms are largely outdated. In 1930, Russian botanist Dmitry Januszewski identified a third type of cannabis plant, the ruderalis. What's important to understand is that these terms are botanical in nature, not pharmacological, rather than telling us about the potential effects that come with consuming a sativa or indica. These categories speak to the shape and size of a given cannabis plant's leaves and the fiber they produce. Fast forward to the 1960s, and we arrive at the onset of modern cannabis breeding. As demand for cannabis in the US continued to grow, the longer flowering cycle required of the pure sativas grown and transported from Mexico caused a lack of supply. In search of a solution, California cannabis breeders began crossing these sativas with indicas native to Nepal and Afghanistan, hoping to create strains that offered the quicker flowering cycle of the latter with the higher potency of the former. Their success would ultimately establish California's position as a capital for world-class cannabis. What was the strain of choice of the 60s potheads? The Colombian Gold, a landrace sativa from Colombia. In the 1970s, strains were usually named for the geographic region in which they originated. For example, Panama Red, Afghan Kush and Acapulco Gold. These strains were later all crossed, and then those crosses were crossed, and so forth. In this time also, cannabis culture took a different color, since the psychedelic exuberance came down a little bit, and music scenes such as reggae and artists like Peter Tosh and Bob Marley came out with tunes singing about cannabis. During the 80s, Thailand strains were the ones more sought after. Thai stick was the name given to any strain that came from Thailand. A unique cross came out of this import, chocolate skunk. This strain combines what is presumed to be a Thai skunk with a variety called chocolate, and it was one of the first times cannabis had been selectively bred. In the 1990s, we saw the biggest quantum leaps in cannabis history, the release of the White Widow strain. White Widow was the strongest cannabis anyone had really ever seen at the time, bred specifically for indoor cultivation, and it helped turn growing from a hobby to a very lucrative skill. White Widow won 3 cannabis cups over the decade and remains a classic to this day. In the 2000s, the most popular strain was Blue Dream. It dominated the decade, and for a good reason. It was a sativa-dominant hybrid that was fast and easy to grow, finishing in half the time as most pure sativas. These days, it is so commonplace as to be mundane, but Blue Dream ruled the decade of the 2000s like no other strain. In the 2010s, the strain that took the decade by storm was the Girl Scout cookies. This exclusive designer strain came to public awareness after Bay Area hip-hop artist Burner name-checked the strain in his songs. Its rise is a miracle of branding that the cannabis industry had never before seen, and most likely wouldn't have existed without Instagram. As for its genetics, the strain is said to include a combination of Durban poison, Cherry Pie Kush, and OG Kush. In the 2020s, so far the latest craze has been celebrities releasing their own strains of weed, such as the Mike Tyson strain, the Wiz Khalifa strain, or the Bella Thorne strain. As for 2023, the most popular strains are lemon cherry gelato, apple fritter, and cereal milk. Well, guys, thanks for watching until the very end. If you enjoyed, Consider subscribing for more revolution videos daily. Also, make sure you give me a like and comment below what you would like me to make next. Okay, peace.